What is up, heroes? It's Midnight Zero, and welcome back to Week 10 of the NCPL. Insert apology here for the quality of this. I know I said last week when I was playing up against Sam that I would fix this, and I actually made all the artwork and everything for it, but due to some other circumstances, I didn't have the time to actually set it all up in OBS and everything. So, hope you guys bear with me, and hopefully, although next week seems like it's going to be rushed too, hopefully we can get a nicer looking team builder again once in a while. But regardless, let's get into this week. We are going up against Jeff, coach of the Quebec Quagsires, who has a so-so team in my opinion. It's got some decent offense in the B tier and then some great defense in the A tier. I don't feel like it bridges the gap too well though, so we're going to see what we can do. Getting into his first Pokemon, we got Tapu Fini. I use Tapu Fini in the SFL. It's a great Pokemon. It doesn't have reliable recovery, which kind of sucks, but it's so bulky. It can set up with Calm Mind. It can, use Haze to prevent setup sweepers. It's, great stab in Surf and Moonblast. It also gets access to Taunt, as well as being a generally pretty fast, bulky Mon. So, yeah, overall it's really good. It's a really good tank, in my opinion. It's a great defogger, too, so pretty cool. Misty Surge prevents it from getting status. That is, of course, once Misty Surge is up, which is pretty cool. And, yeah, it's bulky. And, I should mention, you're probably wondering why this music is playing. I don't know why. I'm really stressed right now, and I was just feeling some nostalgic Donkey Kong 64 music, and that's why you're getting some jungle japes right now. But anyways, next up is Ferrothorn. Ferrothorn's such a bulky mon. It can set spikes, rocks, T-Wave things, Gyro Ball, Power Whip, Protect, Leech Seed. It's really bulky both physically and specially. It, of course, is really only weak to Fire type and Fighting type. And even the Fighting type attacks it takes really well. It's really slow, so Gyro Balls are actually pretty strong. It's got an okay attack stat, and with access to Leech Seed and Protect, it can heal up really quickly. You can also run Rocky Helmet, Iron Barb sets too, so just a really great tanky mon and hazard setter. And then next up is Chansey. Oh, Chansey is just a blob. It just sponges hits for days. Obviously, it takes the special hits a lot better than the physical hits, but it gets great access to reliable recovery in Soft Boiled. It can T-Wave things, it can get up rocks, it can Seismic Toss things for reliable damage. It's really just kind of a pain to deal with, especially, when it pretty much walls any special attacker. So, yeah, Chansey's a pain. But moving on to more of the offense Jeff has, we have Mega Absol, his Mega. Now, Mega Absol has a really strong attack stat. It really gained a pretty big advantage this generation with the change to Mega Speed mechanics. So the speed change, it occurs like the turn you Mega. So it gains that base 115 speed the turn it Megas. It gains Magic Bounce, which is really cool. It reflects non-damaging moves, so stuff like Taunt, Hazards, and stuff, so I need to watch out for that. It also has, great Stab Knockoff, great Stab Sucker Punch. It also has really good move pool, access to Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Fire Blast, which I fully anticipate seeing. I was chatting with Sam a bit after last week, and he said, dude, Beam Blast coverage just destroys your team. And yeah, that's part of what made Mew so scary, which did have Ice Beam and Fire Blast. So yeah, I fully anticipate Mega Absol. It's a powerhouse physically, and it does pretty well specially too, and great move pool, so yeah. Next up is Toxicroak, and Toxicroak also hits hard, physical or special, Nasty Plot or Swords Dance. Typically runs SD, Drain Punch, Gunk Shot, and Sucker Punch. It can also run Ice Punch though, and maybe Mach Punch. I don't think it gets Mach Punch, I think it gets Vacuum Wave. But I'm not 100% sure exactly what to expect. I would predict a physical set. This thing, it hits hard. It actually hits really hard after an SD. Hits a so-so speed tier, and what's really cool is its ability Dry Skin, making it immune to water type attacks, which makes it a premier Suicune counter, or at least soft check to an extent, because Suicune does get extra sensory, which is quadruply super effective, but it can at least hit it hard, and after an SD, it's doing 75% or so damage with Gunk Shot, and definitely hurting. Next up is Arcanine, and Arcanine has grown a lot lately. It's risen in usage due to VGC in particular. It's a great Intimidate user. It's all around bulky, HP of 90, defense of 80, SPDF of 80, but access to Intimidate really helps boost its, weaken opposing physical attack. and it's also got a great move pool, hitting, you know, water types with Wild Charge, and of course hitting most things in general just with hard Flare Blitzes. It has reliable recovery in Morning Sun and gets really great priority in Extreme Speed. It's a really good mon. It can also run more bulky set with Will-O-Wisp. It can run Snarl, which lowers the opponent's special attack by 1 stage, in addition to doing like meager amounts of damage. But yeah, it's really scary. It's really scary. An HP Ice Arcanine would be really difficult to beat, so I might have to scout for that. I fully anticipate Arcanine coming, especially given that I have a Mega Scizor. So yeah, and a Tangrowth for that matter. But moving on to the next Pokemon, we've got Weezing, Sigilyph, and Rhyperior in the C tier. Now, Weezing has been one of those Pokemon that I've realized is surprisingly more useful than you'd ever imagine. Once I started playing in the Counter League format, I realized how great of a physical wall Weezing can be, with access to Flamethrower, Will-O-Wisp, Clear Smog, and Sludge Bomb, and not really having any, well, it's weak to Psychic, but that's it, because of Levitate. It's pretty cool. It can set up Toxic Spikes, and it does have, you know, great physical defense. So I fully anticipate that, in anticipation of, you know, Tangrowth, in anticipation of Garchomp, in anticipation of Mega Scizor, and yeah, that's kind of what it does. So we'll see. Next up is Sigilyph, and I hate going against this Pokemon. It's a decent speed tier, and it's got, you know, mixed, it's got kind of stats all over the place, but what's cool is it's got Magic Guard. It can run a Psycho Shift Flame Orb set, and that would be a pain to deal with, but it can also run a Magic Guard Life Orb set, which means it wouldn't be taking Life Orb Recoil, but definitely gaining the damage boost, and it gets access to Heat Wave, Air Slash, Psychic, Stored Power, and Cosmic Power, making it really bulky potentially. So it is kind of a pain. It also gets Energy Ball to hit Suicune potentially, so maybe an Expert Belt set. Its coverage is great, and it's one of his few hard-hitting special attackers. Yeah. Alright. Next up, we've got the Monster Rhyperior. I don't know why Rhyperior isn't showing up on the document right now, but Rhyperior is super bulky. It's got a great attack stat. It has Solid Rock, meaning super effective attacks do 75% of their like typical damage output. So it's really bulky, it's really slow, so it has to tank those hits, but, you know, with access to Earthquake and Stone Edge as stab, with coverage moves like Aqua Tail or Mega Horn, it can put in a ton of work. It can Dragon Tail as well. It is a good Rocks user. It's just a powerhouse. It's a powerhouse, but it is super slow. Next up is Palisand, and I haven't had much experience with Palisand at all, whether it's on Shown on the Ladder or VGC, or just in the League format yet. It's got some so-so stats, it's just that it has a lot of weaknesses, and doesn't really hit super hard just yet. I don't know. With stuff like Suicune on my team, with Tangrowth on my team, with Scrafty on my team, and this thing's speed being so low, I just don't really see it coming, so I'm not too worried about it. And then next up is Lantern. Lantern is a really cool Pokemon in that it can run Volt Absorb or Water Absorb. So it's either immune to electric or water type attacks. You don't know until you find out, which is a really cool ability. It's really bulky, just because of its fat HP stat. That's pretty much it. It can run an Assault Vest set. I know he's run Choice Specs before, which is pretty crazy. It's good for momentum with Volt Switch. It gets access to Heal Bell. And yeah, I think we might see this. Given that I have Thundurus T and Suicune as some of the staples on my team, he might bring, you know, a Volt Absorb Lantern and a Dry Skin Toxicroak. And yeah. Next up is Scyther. Scyther is, we meme about it in the league because of its blazing speed when it's only got a base 105 speed stat. It's pretty cool. It can run Offensive Technician set, which does quite a bit of damage with Aerial Ace and Bug Bite. That said, it's still not that powerful, and if it wants to live any sorts of hits, because it is pretty frail, it needs the Eviolite that it typically does run, and it can be a Defogger, Roost, Tailwind setter, potentially. It's super weak to rocks, but yeah, I don't know how much we'll see it. And then lastly, we've got Avalugg and Unknown. Avalugg is a rapid spinner that has a lot of defense. It's got like a ton of defense, but outside of that, it's pretty useless, to be honest. And then there's Unknown, which is just a meme. It's just a meme. You guys remember from the SFL when I fought Jerry and his Unknown, which was a Specs Unknown. It doesn't even get the boost from Psychic Terrain, but yeah. So that's Jeff's team. And when I looked at Jeff's team, what stood out? Well, outside of Mega Absol, he's got a really slow Pokemon. My Thunderous T and my Garchomp will outspeed everything but that Mega Absol and Scyther. And that is something I'm definitely going to take advantage of. I don't really need to run a Scarfer for this team, given that of his offensive threats, I have some great switch-ins or immunities to one of their attacks that, you know, if they lock themselves into, I can set up with or something like that. So, with that in mind, let's move on to my team. So, the first mon I decided to throw on my team was Mega Scizor. I wasn't really sure on what type of Scizor I wanted to run when I decided I wanted to use Mega Scizor, but I realized that I could set up on so many things. Just looking at Tapu Fini, looking at Ferrothorn, Chansey, even Toxicroak. What else? Not Arcanine, not Mega Absol, but maybe Weezing, probably not Weezing. Rhyperior, Palisand, even Lantern to an extent. It could run with Scald, but maybe Scyther, Avalugg, Unknown. I mean, I'm not really anticipating Unknown, but I am anticipating at least one or two of these A-tier picks. So I figured I'll get the chance to set up an SD, and I feel like he has a lot of walls. He has a lot of defense. He has a lot of slow mons that I'm just going to want to plow through. I'm just going to want to power through. So you'll notice I have a lot of setup on my team. So I'm running SD with Bug Bite and Bullet Punch. I'm not running Super Power, despite there being a Ferrothorn and Chansey, because it takes roughly 2 turns. It only takes 1 extra turn to KO with Bug Bite, and Bug Bite overall gets better coverage, and I don't want to deal with attack and defense drops, especially with stuff like Toxicroak running around, where if I get to +2, I'm going to want to stay at +2, because at +2 I OHKO Mega Absol, I OHKO Toxicroak after Rocks, I think I 2-hit KO? Do I 2-hit KO? I think I 2-hit KO Tapu Fini after Rocks, I 2-hit KO Weezing after Rocks, I have a good chance to 2-hit KO Sigilyph, and that's why I'm running so much attack, just so I can do so much. I OHKO in a Violite, Scyther after Rocks, so I really want to maintain that +2. And I've got Roost because I potentially am going to be taking hits from stuff like Rhyperior or Toxicroak, and potentially Seismic Tosses from Chansey, or Leech Seeds from Ferrothorn, or Scalds or Surfs from Tapu Fini as I set up, so I did want to be able to heal. And that's why you see I've got a lot of HP, I've got a little bit of defense, and then I've got just enough attack to get those important +2 OHKOs after hazards, or 2-hit KOs from neutral. So yeah, that's why we got Mega Scizor. Not running the typical SD U-turns. That's shocking, I know, right? But next up we have Thunderous T, and this Thunderous T, it was really difficult to settle on a set. Of course, I outspeed everything relevant. I outspeed his Adamant if he runs a non-speed boosting nature on Mega Absol. That's what I was going to outspeed. So I did the speed creeping for that. I have max special attack, and Thunderbolt and Grass Knot hit so much on his team. Just look at his team. Thunderbolt hits so many things neutrally or super effectively, and what it doesn't, Grass Knot does. So look at Rhyperior, look at Palisand, and look at Lantern. All 3 of those get hit so hard by Grass Knot, and I'm running Nasty Plot because I don't need the speed. I really don't, and I feel like I'll get chances to set up just like Scizor on a lot of mons, and at +2 I just plow through so many different Pokemon, and I also prevent getting Leech Seeded, I prevent Chansey from soft boiling, I prevent Tapu Fini from Calm Minding alongside me or hazing me with Taunt, and I have leftovers so that I can kind of negate Rocks damage, and as I taunt things, I get an extra turn of leftovers, and as I sweep, I gain a little bit more bulk so that I can potentially take Sucker Punches from Mega Absol, or Toxicroak, or Extreme Speeds from Arcanine, and yeah, that's the plan. Thunderous T, you know, set up and plow through things. One thing that is worth mentioning is that if I am at full, and I am up against a Chansey at full, due to Taunt and Nasty Plot, I can pretty much guarantee that when my Thunderous T dies, it will leave the Chansey at about 30%, which is really nice. And that's assuming there's no poison or anything like that, so, or paralysis, whichever status I get, so, yeah. I also wanted this around for Thunder Wave's potential on stuff like Ferrothorn and, and Chansey. He also needs to fear like an HP Ice, or a Superpower, or a Focus Blast, or an Incinerate from this thing. It's got a great move pool, so he's got to watch out. Next up is Garchomp, and this is another just kind of set up and plow through Pokemon. It's got EQ and Dragon Claw, because that's all it really needs. I consider Fire Fang specifically for Ferrothorn, but at +2, Tectonic Rage KOs it, and my Earthquake 2 KOs it at +2 anyways, and with Hazards up at +2, I might just OHKO it, so that's kind of the plan there. I have Rocks because all of my other Rock setters get bodied by Mega Absol, and I didn't want to have to worry about Magic Bounce and all that, and I feel like I'll scare something out with Garchomp and get up Rocks, so yeah. At +2, Tectonic Rage OHKOs all of his bulky mons, and literally just anything it hits. That's pretty much the case. So again, we can get rid of Absol, and then sweep with, I don't know, Garchomp, sweep with Thunderous T. That's kind of the plan. And yeah. So next up is Garbodor. Yes, bringing Garbodor for the second time this season. I definitely want to get up my Hazards. Hazards will be super helpful for making Scizor, Thunderous T, and Garchomp, they're making their lives a lot more, just a lot easier, being able to pick up sweeps a lot more effectively with all that hazard damage. Also, Garbodor beats all of his Defoggers, which is just, well, great. And his Magic Bounce user, I 2-hit KO Mega Absol with Drain Punch, I 2-hit KO Tapu Fini with Gunk Shot. And yeah, this is also really helpful for Arcanine and Toxicroak. They'll be taking a lot of damage from Rocky Helmet and potentially Aftermath as well, and neither of them wants to take a Gunk Shot or a Drain Punch. So yeah, it helps out, especially given that he has a lot of physical attackers in general. This could also be used to get some damage off on Chansey on Seismic Tosses, and potentially Mega Absol on knockoffs and stuff to put it in BP range potentially. So yeah, next up is Tangrowth, and Tangrowth. Alright, so I was really considering a physically defensive set, but if I were all out physically defensive, I did kind of lose to Tapu Fini, so I went with a lot of Spadef so that I can take on Tapu Fini a lot better, and I already take on the things that would hit me physically pretty well anyways, unless it's a Banded Megahorn from Adamant Rhydon, or Rhyperior. So yeah, this is really helpful for taking pressure off of Garbodor and Scizor physically to help deal with stuff like, what's it called? Potentially Mega Absol, Ferrothorn, Tapu Fini, even Chansey, to help out with Rhyperior a lot, to help out with Scyther even a little bit. And yeah, one thing that's really cool is, well, Knockoff is going to be so helpful with getting rid of leftovers on so many things. Hidden Power Fire is there for Ferrothorn, and Leech Seed is going to be so helpful because when I switch in all my Mons, I'm not going to want them to get whittled away to be put in like Sucker Punch range or something like that. So even just Leech Seeding something like an Arcanine, or if I can Leech Seed Chansey, it'll heal Tangrowth 20% each turn. Just because of Chansey's super fat HP stat. So yeah, it'll be really helpful for picking up little chip damage and helping my Pokemon from getting whittled. And then lastly, we have Suicune, which is a very different set. A very, very different set. Running max HP, max defense, to help out with Arcanine in particular, to help out with Toxicroak in particular. And we're running Scald so we can hit Arcanine and just about everything else. And Extra Sensory specifically for that Toxicroak. It'll OHKO Toxicroak. We live a +2 Drain Punch. I think we live a +2 Gunk Shot. And we have Substitute and Protect for Ferrothorn and Chansey. We can get up some Leftovers Recovery. We can stall out some Seismic Tosses. We can stall out all of Ferrothorn's Power Whips if it's running Power Whip. If not, we definitely completely wall it. We can get a burn on it, which would be really nice. And yeah, this is really helpful for Arcanine in particular. I totally anticipate a Gigavolt Havoc because it is his Zmon, as you can see. And Gigavolt Havoc will actually do like 75-80% if it's an offensive Arcanine, which is crazy that it doesn't even kill. But we can Scout for it with Protect, and we take Wild Charge decently well, and we knock it out with Scald if it goes into like a Life Orb Wild Charge plus Scald damage after Rocks. Did I forget about anything? I think we're good. I think we're good. This will also help out with Weezing, it'll help out with Palisand, and it could be another Mon to switch in against Mega Absol if I don't want my other Mons getting weakened. And yeah, that's kind of the plan. A lot of Mons have potentially different roles, so it's going to really depend a lot on what he brings as to what is necessary for what. But regardless, yeah, this team prep was a little bit rushed. This is one of the more rushed team preps I've had in a while, so I'm hoping it works out. It is a pretty simple game plan, you know, to set up and plow through walls, and hopefully one of your setup Mons breaks through, but we'll see. It should. I think I'm only confident. I only built this way because I think it'll work, so hopefully it does. But we'll see you guys in the battle, but until then, this is Midnight Zero, and this mission is complete.